Co-live. Wait, who finished third at NorCal?
I can't remember. For men or women?
Women. Sorry, that wasn't specific at all.
Carolyn Prevost.
Oh, that's right.
Okay.
Yeah, because they were. I saw. Yeah.
It was close. It was really close.
Okay, ready?
Mm-hmm.
All right, here we go. 3, 2, 1. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Talking Elite Fitness. I'm Sean Woodland, joined as always by Lauren Khalil. Lauren, where does this podcast find you this evening?
I am in what we used to call the Dirty J, New Jersey.
The Dirty J.
Yeah.
Yep. That is where I am.
I don't even want to go to Urban Dictionary on that one, but we'll just.
Yeah, that was going to say no Urban
just,
Dictionary. That one.
I think we talked about that around the same time the Jersey Shore came out. So I'm sure it had to, maybe they're, simpatico.
Okay.
Yeah.
And featuring Tommy Marquez. Tommy, what's up?
Just at home. Nothing dirty about it.
Yeah. Nice.
Except for Miles's diapers.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. God.
Just blowing it out.
It's all he blew it out today at the gas station. So,
Oh man, there's just some places you don't want to be changing the diaper, and I know a gas station just ain't one of them.
Yep.
No. Well, anyway, we got a lot to talk about today. Live in-person qualifying is done, and we certainly have a lot to talk about out of the NorCal Classic, which is the final last in-person event, sending 2 men, 2 women to the CrossFit Games. A lot happened there during the event, and some stuff happened after the event as well. We'll talk about that. We got the Last Chance Qualifier starting. We have some news from Hyrox with Tia Clara Toomey competing. Some updates on some things going on with some athletes as well. So a lot to get caught up on today, and then set the stage as we are we're almost a month and a half now away from the 2025 CrossFit Games. But before we get into any of that, we want to welcome a new sponsor for today. And that is Victory Grips. Let me tell you something. I am a sucker for good grips because they make all the difference in the world, especially for a big old rig shaker like me who needs all the help he can get hanging on the bar. That's why I love Victory Grips, because you put these things on and it's like, it's just going to make a huge difference. 5 unbroken toes a bar now becomes 10 because you can just hang on better. The reason they're so good is they're designed by former gymnast and CrossFit affiliate owner Victor Pellegrino. They've been around since 2016, so they've been doing this for a while. They've been a pioneer in the market, being the first to develop synthetic leather grips, rubber grips, and the old fingerless design.
My favorite.
Yep. They have grips for all bar types and environments. Their X2 material is a synthetic leather. It's great for sweaty workouts and humid conditions. The leather and X2 materials are used by the most elite athletes and are especially good for Spiel bars. They're the ones that have the bare steel. And, if you love to chalk, let's face it, some CrossFitters have a serious addiction to chalk. Now, if comfort is important to you, Victory Grips does not have a hard ring that digs into your wrist. Sometimes you put that wrist strap on, you get up there and hang on. And it's like, oh my God, I got to take these things off because they're killing my hand. Everything is flexible. They also have a V-series design. Those things are awesome. I tried those the other night. Love those. That's built for comfort and support around the wrist. Victory Grips also has a line that is designed specifically for a woman's hand. So there you go. So be on the lookout for some great releases coming from them coming soon. But if you want to check them out, you can go to their website. That's victorygrips.com. You can use the code TEF. You can also just scan the QR code on your screen. You're going to save 15% and get yourself a sweet pair of grips.
And they have so much variety, and they are great if you guys ever see their booth or Vic or any of the team in person, from sizing you to letting you try all of the different types of material with their bars. Like, I feel like every CrossFit competition I go to, I see them there and people doing the toes to bar, trying the bar muscle up. So their team is excellent with making sure you guys get the right grips.
Yeah, it's crazy like how far this has come. I mean, I remember the days, and we were doing this at HQ, where we get the tape and you'd make the loop and you just put the tape over your hand, and that was a grip. And if someone happened to bring in gymnastics grips, you couldn't use them because they all had the dowel in them. Like no one made
the dowel,
And then they started making like the real basic ones, and that was a leap forward. But now, like the stuff that Victory Grips is doing, incredible. So check them out, victorygrips.com. Use the code TEF, and you will save 15%. Okay, let's get into it. Let's start with the NorCal Classic because there's a lot to unpack here. But first off, the two women heading to the CrossFit Games, and just put an asterisk on one of them, and that's Alex Gazan, because we're going to talk more about her in just a second, but we want to recap the comp. We're going to go in chronological order, recap the competition before we recap what happened after the competition. So Gazan wins. She's going. Hattie Canio finishes second. She's qualified as well. Then on the men's side, it's Bill Leahy and Jorge Fernandez, and we are efforting both of them on the show. So we have made contact.
We'll have Bill
with both
next
of them.
week.
So Bill's next week,
Yep.
and then Jorge we
Yep.
were supposed to have this week, but he had travel plans that got bumped up.
He's down in Peru with the Mayhem Missions, the Mayhem Mission, I guess you could call it. So when he comes back from Peru, he'll be on as well. So,
But let's talk about the event itself, because Blair and Ben are two OG CrossFit guys. They put on, a fun event. And what I heard from people that I talked to who were there said it felt like kind of old school sectionals before the Open started, like back 2009, 2010, where it was just a big community throwdown, and it had that vibe.
Yeah, I agree. I heard the same thing from talking to some people from my gym that went up, and just over the last couple of years, talking to people since they've been at, was it Discovery Bay, right? Is the
Discovery
area
Park
that they're at?
Yeah, it's called Discovery Park, which is a great area in Sac. It's awesome.
Yeah, and it's they've had the same thing to say. It feels very grassroots. It feels very community oriented. It's a little funky in terms of, like, if you go back to those days of sectionals and stuff, you did get some people throwing some weird programming elements outside of the boxes. People are trying to establish themselves and kind of carve new pathways in the sport. And those are all things that they very much take pride in. Ben and Blair, like, hey, we want to stick to that in many ways. The vibe of the venue, the community divisions, how we run that, that is very important to us. I had a chance to speak with Ben yesterday or day before, just talking about everything, because I wanted to get his perspective as the event organizer, how everything went down, get the details on his end on some of the controversies and chaos. And he said that as much. He's like, hey, like, we realize when you come to NorCal, you're going to get that vibe. You're going to get some funky stuff that's a little outside of the box. But it's ultimately going to pour back into some elements of core CrossFit from the early days. And he's like, and he was the first one to say, hey, hand up. I thought we knocked the community divisions out of the park. We weren't as tight and weren't as clean in our operation with the elite divisions as we should have, and as it should be for a qualifying event for the CrossFit Games. So he was very clear about, like, taking accountability from the outset. That was one of the first things he told me. And he said that the goal is, obviously, if they're able to come back as a qualifying event, he said we want it to feel like Aromas, but execute like the games or regionals did. And he's like, and that's ultimately the goal, because we want that vibe. We want that old school vibe being outside and everything like that. And those are just kind of some things at the top. Now, the other, I would say there were three main things that have kind of stood out from the weekend, and that most of the quote unquote issues revolve around. One is programming adjustments and scoring adjustments during the first couple of days. There was an adjustment to the programming with the weighted jump ropes that were removed from the event, I believe with the reverse lunge wall balls. That was due to an unforeseen issue with the weighted ropes being out for a bunch of the other divisions as well, community divisions. The length of time of them being in the heat, for some reason, they were just coming undone. And Ben said, it's like, hey, we tested in dirt, in water, in grass, everywhere. And it's just the length of time they had been outside because of the way the thing is structured. We just didn't see that. And so we removed it altogether for the elites just to make it standard. So he was like, that was something that was, we didn't see, we didn't know. And, we had to adjust as best as we could. And so the elites had a slight programming adjustment. He did note that what they switched the programming to was what was originally programmed for that workout. So the version that the elites did was the original version of that workout before they made some last minute changes. The other change was the gator push that they had to do. It was like you have to load and push, load and push, load and push. And ultimately, they figured out that the two gators were operating at different speeds, despite having the exact same model, exact same amount of weight in the gator, down to like the person that was driving it as the safety mechanism. They had equalized for weight there. So two people similar weight, they were 5 pounds apart when they got on the scale that day, and they had an extra 5 pound, like they controlled all the different variables. But for some reason, one had just a few more hours of usage, and that changed the axles somehow. So what they did in the situation was the field was split amongst left lane, right lane, obviously, because it was in pairs, but you were only scored against the lane that you ran. So all left lane athletes were scored against each other, and all right lane athletes were scored against each other to control for the difference in the gators. And then the points were cut in half. So 50 points so instead of a 100-point event, it was like 50 points were available for the right side, 50 points for the left. And that was something that was kind of done more so on the fly, and was kind of consulted on with some different coaches and camps and stuff like that. And it seemed, from what Ben said, he said he got, people from Proven and Mayhem and all this stuff seemed to feel like that was an adequate adjustment on the fly for something that was outside of the box. And I think I can circle back to that, why, that kind of puts you in some weird positions when you program stuff like that. But the main controversy came from the final event and the loading of the bar for Nate Ackerman. So for anyone that didn't watch, Nate Ackerman and Jorge Fernandez were basically in just a neck and neck heat for the final spot. They ultimately, when everything shook out, tied in points, tiebreaker. But Nate was approaching his last bar, and there was some confusion around the loading of his bar. And it actually starts a heat before.
Yes, that's a good point to bring up. Yep.
Yes. So
and just to interject, but in this event in 2, they had to load the weight on their own bars. The bars were not preloaded.
Yes.
So that's another point.
So there's a couple details coming into it that are important. So the original weight had been dropped to 325 because they had ultimately used shorty bars, and that adjusted for the same plates that they had planned, but with the 10 pounds fewer on the shorty bars. More weights than what the athletes necessarily needed or were going to use were on the floor, because that same floor was also being used for community divisions that had different loadings, and they were running those heats very quickly with like quick turnarounds. So they just kept all the weights on the floor. I talked to Ben about that. He said they tried to figure out a way where they could just have the elites weights on there, but it just wasn't working with the timing with all the heat structure. And he said that's something they're going to consider later, obviously in the future. But because they were running so many divisions, they kept more weights than is usually necessary. That's where some people were bringing that up in the comments as well. So now in the first heat, before the first heat, athletes are in the corral. The athletes were given basically a roadmap as far as what plates and color codings you need to load. And they were told, this is gospel. And this is right before they go out. You need this weight. You need a blue. I think it was, I'm spitballing the first 3. I think it was, you need a red, a blue, a yellow, and then a blue, a small blue. Now, anyone who knows their plates, that actually equates to 315, because you subtract 10 pounds off of the shorty bar. Those 3 plates are essentially 345s. And that's 305 minus the shorty bar, and then you're replacing that with the 5s. Now, that was actually technically different than what the programming had called for, but ultimately what was told to the athletes in the briefing at the corral was like, this is what you need to load. We are going to use this same color code structure for everyone. This is what you need to load. This is what the judges have been told you need to load, and this is how you need to go about on the floor. Everyone goes about onto the floor. I think it was like 20-person heats at least. Everyone except for Ilya, who is in the lead, comes out in front and gets to the final bar for the loading. Now he goes to follow the protocol that he was told, and does it accordingly. Blair Morrison, who is one of the co-directors and co-founders, sees this, doesn't realize that they've been briefed something different, and goes, that's 315 and not 325. So Blair runs across because Ilya is smoking the event. He ends up winning the event anyways. And Blair removes the plates and puts the white 10s on. Now, I talked to Ben about this. He said, Ben said, in the real time, I'm watching this and I'm like, why is Blair running? What is he doing? Why is he removing those plates? And I run over to the head judge, run over to Blair. Head judge tells me, as Ilya smokes the bar with an extra 10 pounds on it compared to what they were briefed, and finishes the event and wins it anyways. Ben goes over and corrects Blair. They confer, and Blair basically realizes, I made a mistake and I changed the bar to something that other than what they were briefed.
So Blair took weight off.
He took the blue 5s off and put the white 10s on.
To up to 325, right?
Up to 325, which what Blair thought was the weight, because that was originally what they.
Okay.
But that was no longer the weight because they had been briefed differently in the back.
Right.
All the other athletes loaded their bars correctly. They move on. Next round goes. Blair's like, oh, I dodged a bullet here because Ilya didn't have a problem with the lift. Smoked it, still set the time to beat. It's a very close race, tight windows, tight race. Nate gets to his bar, begins loading what he was told to in the briefing and as instructed by the judge. So there's people in the crowd, and I believe Taylor Self, who is working media there, is close by as well. I think Taylor's on the floor.
He was.
And they had just seen Blair switch the loading out for Ilya. So as Nate is loading his bar, they're like, no, that's wrong. So they start shouting at Nate that he's loading the wrong weight. Nate looks up, hears them, starts going, what's going on? Starts to go back and change his weights. His judge is telling him, no, this is what you were briefed. This is what you're briefed. No. And in all the confusion, Nate is losing precious time, taking weights off, reloading, unloading them again, putting back on the right weight. And in that time, and I'm going to be very specific about this.
A couple people pass him.
A couple people passed him. So Spencer Panchik, I believe, passed him. And
didn't Jorge Fernandez?
I think Jorge Fernandez passed him.
And there were a couple times, I think, that played in from the prior heat too.
Yes. Yeah, why is this? I'm having a hard time grabbing the exact results. But as it were, those people passing him, you can say, those were the points on the leaderboard. He needed to break that tie and ultimately go to the games. And in that confusion, you can extrapolate out from there.
Sure.
It's very tough to do so exactly to know if Nate would have hit that. It's hard to say.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I went back and watched it because I was very curious as to what happened. And he barely made his lift at the right weight.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things. It's like, had he hit it, had he not, the extra rest may have actually paid off for him. So you're right. You cannot play. Well, if he had those extra seconds back, absolutely he would have made it and done it. Like, that's not an argument worth having.
Yeah.
But yeah, the confusion is just cannot happen. At the end of the day, it's got to be the athlete's ultimate responsibility. But
true.
If there is confusion, there needs to be one voice on the floor, or two at the most, the judge and the head judge, period.
Yeah. Which the judge, and I believe the head judge maybe came over, I'm not 100% sure, but the judge was reiterating the correct loading based on what they were briefing. And this is really unfortunate, right? Because Nate's a good kid. He's really put himself out there in the competition space this last year after taking some time. He was right there. I mean, he has another opportunity in the Last Chance Qualifier. His mom, Julia, has really kind of gone gone to war for him on social media. And I talked to Ben about that, and he's been having conversations with Nate's mom. He pulled Nate aside immediately after, took them person to a person and went on a walk and talked through this. Apologized for the confusion and all the craziness that was going on, and just wanted to kind of get a vibe where he was at and understand and kind of settle things. But really, like, I told Lauren this when we were chatting after Q&A yesterday, that like it really felt like a Lemony Snicket's, like a series of unfortunate events, like multiple things piling on. One, it was not, and Blair admits this, it was not his place to touch an athlete's barbell and change a weight.
Yep.
He was out of line for that. That, as a result, added confusion into other people's minds, and it's not Taylor or media people on the floor's place to interfere with competition as well. Baked into that, in most of the, I would say, less grassrootsy setups, in a bigger arena or a floor that has harder and more spaced out area, that doesn't become an issue because of where media is corralled with and fans are, right? There is enough separation for that. It doesn't really become an issue. Lastly, ultimately, Nate should not have listened to people other than his judge.
Yep. And he needs to know too. Like, he needs to know this. Like, that's the athlete's responsibility at the end of the day. I have to lift this much weight, and this is what it is.
Even if your judge is wrong, you follow that, because in the event of an appeal, you now have deniability in that I listened to my judge, I followed what was briefed, and ultimately I can get something back in that due process playing out. But you don't get that if you say I listened to someone else off the floor, I listened to someone holding a camera or a microphone over there, and that's a really tough lesson, it is. And I think this whole craziness is, I would say, the linchpin in the idea that, like, this is the kind of stuff that, like, really needs to be tightened up for qualifying events, right?
Yeah. And I just think that all of these things in a nutshell, and just with the past several weeks with all of the semifinals, it leads to a bigger discussion is this format sustainable? Can the competitions, and again, nothing against the folks that run NorCal, because they do a great job. They're great people, but hosting a community event where you have a little bit of prize purse money to entice elites to come is different than running an event with a broadcast or a live stream that's qualifying athletes to the CrossFit Games. And if competitions start to lose the buy-in from athletes in the future because of things like this that might go bad one year, it might be great next year, but then what does that do for the turnout? What does that do for sustainability? What can we expect to see? Like, do these events even want to be qualifiers next year because they just don't want to take on the stress? And you need the community events for it to be sustainable, for it to bring in revenue. But it's this weird balance of what is the right path forward when events are doing their best, but we expect a certain level of experience for everybody when you're qualifying athletes. And this year's is different, and it's proven that it's going to have a lot of rocky trails along the way.
Yeah. I mean, they had 1,000 athletes there. I mean, it was a huge event in terms of participation, and which when you have that big of a logistics plan, it makes it really tough or it makes it a lot easier for things to kind of slip through the cracks. And if you're running a community event, that's okay. Like, ultimately, people are okay with that. Now, they've had big prize purses in the past. They had a big prize purse this year as well. When money's involved, people start to get a little bit more uptight about that. But when money and an opportunity to compete at the highest level of sport, that's when things have to be really buttoned up. And maybe at the cost of some of the funkier elements and some of the grassroots elements, you need to be a little bit more sanitized and distilled down to what's known. There's still room for that stuff. I think there's a way you can do both and still stick to like who you are as an event. But the further outside the box you get, the further into uncharted territory in terms of like all the connective tissue that goes behind an event is, and then you don't have the institutional knowledge to lean on as much, and that becomes really tough, right? Because the institutional knowledge that other event organizers have is what allows them to be so successful, right?
Yeah.
I think of Wilson Pack and everything that they've done and how much he has built in from his experience over there to be able to do that. And it's just tough. I like it's such a complicated scenario too, like, and it's hard because like NorCal wasn't a qualifier initially,
Right?
Like they kind of stepped
the
up and took
in, right?
Yeah, they kind of stepped up and took on that mantle and moved their event from September all the way up to this past weekend. And so, I mean, it brings up a great question, Lauren, about the sustainability and viability of all of these events when you have all these moving pieces. And it was an issue that was brought up with the sanctional model too.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people, and I think rightfully so, had questions about the viability of the sanctional model because you had a lot of events that were biting off more than they could chew. And I'm not saying that's the case here, but you had a lot of events kind of extending themselves a little bit further than they had hoped and were maybe hoping for more coming back in return. And that just wasn't the case.
I think to kind of talk about this community thing, I understand why events have to do it because they need to make money off this. And that goes to the viability and the sustainability questions. It's like, from CrossFit's standpoint, this is sustainable because they're not spending any money on these events. It's all the risk and all the responsibility is on the event organizers themselves. So how do they make up for that? How are they willing to take on that risk? Because they can get large amounts of registration fees because they can have a huge community event and they can have 1,000 athletes there. Yeah. I guess if you're going to do that and at the same time you're going to be a qualifying event, like you said, Tommy, the more you do, the more things can go wrong, and the more moving parts there are. So if you're going to do the community event, make it a Thursday, Friday, and then they're done. And then it's nothing but elites on Saturday and Sunday, or elites kick out. Like they're done Friday evening or Friday afternoon. The community they're finished. And then they can hang out and be spectators and enjoy the event. And then it's elites from Friday night on. That intermingling of both the competitions on the same floor is where you're going to run into trouble. Just run a really good community event. When you're done with that, run the elites.
Yeah. You could even do like split days, right? Like they used to do with teams and individuals where like community goes in the morning. It's almost like what Filthy 150 did. Remember
That's
they
exactly
had the community events in the morning and they went like, these are your diehards, right? They're up at the butt crack of dawn and they're like throwing down and then they stick around all sweaty and smelly and ready to buy knee sleeves and wrist wraps and fit aids and then, go watch the elites and like,
or how many floors did NorCal have? Do you know?
I don't.
Yeah.
I mean, they had multiple. There was multiple.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know.
Well, I'm just thinking because for this experience, they had their community events. Almost all of them were in a separate, on a separate floor, except for on the final day when logistics weren't as big of a risk. They just had the teams and the elite on the main floor, essentially.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it also is like, Sean, I get why CrossFit's doing it, right? Because they don't have to hang that money out there. But if this system, the byproduct of this system and them not hanging money out is that you have this rotating door of events that cause people to be disinterested, that causes people to be less
questions on who qualifies.
To view the sport as less legitimate, then are you passively letting your sport die?
Oh, I couldn't agree with you more. Like at the end of the day, and I heard from a lot of people over the weekend while this was going on, saying how I don't think this event should be allowed to qualify people to the games because of all the things that are going wrong at the elite level. And I agree that if you're going to be, qualifying people to the biggest stage in this competitive landscape, there's money on the line, like that kind of stuff can't happen. Look, things happen because of weather. You have to make adjustments. Things happen sometimes because, there's a problem with equipment, like that. There are things that I think people will accept as, okay, you got to make an adjustment on the fly. Here's what we did. And we've seen it we've seen it all the way up to the games where it's like, it rained, safety is a concern. We're not doing the rope climbs. This event has changed. Fine. That happens. But when it's like, you almost invite that in with the event when they push the truck, cool visually. Why not just use a sled?
Well, and that's the thing, Sean. I agree. I think visually it's really cool. And the programming is really cool because it's different. But is it what should be qualifying athletes to the games?
You're just inviting chaos in at that point. Like when you have something with that many moving parts, it's not going to be the same as opposed to if you just loaded a sled and pushed it. Doesn't look as cool. Yeah. But I don't know. I just think that stuff can't.
You could also argue. Yeah, you could also argue that people have issues with sleds and loading and how sleds slide, right? We had that. Right.
And lanes.
Yeah. But this, I want to pose this to you because I think this is an interesting thought. And I appreciated Ben's openness about this. And like, as soon as I reached out to him, he was like, yep, happy to share everything. Like, and he was very adamant about taking accountability and for their mistakes. And he did mention something that they've had, like from an event organizer side, you have a piece of an equipment malfunction, right? And they ultimately have to change programming. And that company reaches out to, who is supporting the event is like, hey, like we will make sure this is buttoned up if you have us back. And Ben made something, a comment that I found was interesting. And I kind of agree with to some extent. He was like, of course we're going to have you back because I trust that you have seen what has gone wrong and you were going to correct that and make sure that's never an issue again. And that has put you on notice to where you're not being lackadaisical, I guess, for lack of a better term, around those types of things. And so I know you're going to come back better with something to prove. If I switch to a different company, then I just open that possibility up again because they haven't had that same stress test. And I wonder about that because when Ben was like, I hope they have us back because we're already working on what's these solutions and how we would make changes and adjust. And I'm like, I get the sentiment from people saying like, hey, they shouldn't be a qualifier because of these issues. And I think that is true. But also at the same time, I'm like, well, if they learn from those mistakes, how can they prove that they've learned from those mistakes and that's not going to be an issue? And does that make them a better option than a new person coming in going forward?
Yeah. And
it's a really interesting thought.
I agree with that. Yeah. I think too, I have a ton of respect for Ben and Blair. I think those guys, like I said, OG as they come, they run a great event. And I think they will learn from this. And I think that they have, because of the feedback that I got from people about the environment and the feel of the event, I think they have a lot to build on. My hope is that they dial it back next year, and just make it. People don't want. You don't need to go crazy with things to have a good competition. You can program good CrossFit events with equipment that everybody has access to in their gyms, and you can have something that's a lot of fun to watch and a lot of fun for fans to attend, and a lot of fun for the competitors as well. So I guarantee you, they're going to learn from this, and then they're also going to have more runway now to understand that they're a qualifier because, as you mentioned, they came in at sort of the 11th hour and bumped their event up. The preparation for next year has probably already started with those guys, knowing how meticulous they are with it. But yeah, it was a crazy weekend. And it was, it was too bad that had to happen because there were some really good competitive moments. There were some really good stories. I thought the coverage was good. So there was a lot of good about that event, but to your point of, it kind of reminds me, like, this has always sort of been something that CrossFit has dealt with. It's always the yes, but, and here it is again. It's the, yeah, but that happened. And it's not just this event. You can go all the way back to when CrossFit was running regionals. There was always something that, yeah, but, so anyway, that's my final thought on that.
Yeah. Yeah. God, that's so true. I'm trying to think if there was a year during our tenure where it felt like there was a clean run front to back. Maybe 2018, right?
I was thinking 2018, and the only reason I'm saying that is because that was like the last year that we ran regionals. In my mind, it felt like the best year because there were other times in regionals where you had, you had all the injured pectoral muscles on the ring. That was 2016,
15,
16.
16 or 17. It might have been 17.
There's always been
2017
something.
Yeah. Murph issues,
Right.
Even 2014, there was a whole like handstand walk controversy with with Sam Briggs and not.
Yeah. But anyway,
close.
I think that I do like that point about bringing them back because they will learn from this, and I have no doubt that Ben and Blair will be better for this. And I respect the hell out of Ben for putting his hand up and being like, hey man, on me, we'll fix it. Because it's a great environment. I'm biased. It's my hometown. I want to see a qualifying event there. And I think the people I talked to a lot of people who had a good time. Like they said, it was like a cool backyard, old school feel. And I think there definitely is a place for that as we try to move forward and get things back on track.
Yeah. Well, you want to be able to go watch the event and then, I don't know, go get some, Rita's Italian Ice?
Yeah.
Rita's.
Actually, if you're looking for there's a couple really good dessert places. There's Rick's Dessert Diner. It's in downtown Sacramento. That's fantastic.
Oh, yes.
And if you want really good ice cream in Sacramento, you go to Leatherby's because it's like one scoop is like a pyramid of 3 and they put it in. It's like a single scoop sundae is like three globes of ice cream smushed together, drowned in some of the best hot fudge you're going to have. So
I think me and my wife got beat up by a Leatherby's ice cream one time.
Oh, okay. You said Leatherby's employee, probably not, but yeah.
No, we both thought we could, we had ordered the right amount and we grossly overestimated.
Yes.
We're just sitting there in our car afterwards, just head swirling in dairy, just like what?
Oh yeah, happened? I haven't been there in a bunch of years. Every time I go home, I'm like, I'm gonna go get a sundae, and it's like, I don't know if I can handle that sugar shock right now.
Sugar shock.
Yeah. So okay. Anyway, before we move on, I want to thank our other sponsor for today, and that is Thirdsy. You can head to thirdsy.com, use the code TEF, and save 20% on their rest and recovery collagen. It is fantastic if you're looking to improve your sleep game and also improve your recovery while you sleep. It has GABA, L-theanine, magnesium in it. Those are designed to calm your central nervous system, helps you get to sleep faster and stay asleep longer. It doesn't have any melatonin in it, so it's not habit forming. It's a fantastic product. Thirdsy.com. Use the code TEF and you will save 20%. It's the rest and recovery collagen. Can't go wrong with it.
You know what I figured out? The flavor?
What?
You know what I figured out? Have you ever had the raspberry lemon poppy?
No.
You've ever had poppy? Like the probiotic soda?
No.
Yeah.
They have a raspberry, it might be strawberry, but it might be strawberry lemon or raspberry lemon. And it tastes, and I was like, that's what this is. I'm like, why am I so addicted to the Thirdsy flavor? And I was like, because I have had this poppy flavor before. But yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Delicious.
I swear by it. And again, I said over and over and over and over and over and over again on the show what a poor sleeper I am. But I can get, 5-6 hours a night. And because of Thirdsy, it's quality sleep and I feel good when I wake up. So thank you.
Add some coconut water.
Oh, yeah. You do. Well, so if you do the smoothie, my Thirdsy smoothie is.
Yeah.
Usually I'll do 1 cup of frozen blueberries, 1 cup of coconut water, scoop of just regular whey protein powder, and then a scoop of Thirdsy in it. So vanilla protein powder and then Thirdsy, and you mix that up and you drink it as a smoothie, and it is fantastic.
Ooh, little bedtime.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
That sounds legit.
Yeah,
John doesn't mess around. He's got his own Thirdsy recipe.
I do. I like to explore the space.
Really? Explore
the space. Thirdsy.com. The code is TEF. All right, let's stay in NorCal and talk about the aftermath, because I'm sure, as everyone has heard by now, Alex Gazan and her husband were in a car accident. that could have been.
Yeah.
First of all, thank God they're okay.
Yeah.
Everyone knows there was no serious injuries. Now, Alex suffered, it was like I talked to Justin Kotler yesterday. It's like a non-displaced bone fracture. And he said it's a lot like for her. It's like best case scenario if you're going to break it, because now it's essentially coming back from high ankle sprain, which is not easy.
Yeah.
Oh,
but
interesting.
It's not like she's 100% out of the games. However, she was told if she had been sitting 2 feet to the left, she would have probably died, because there was a bike rack, I guess, that came through the window, and it would have probably done some serious damage. Like, it would have been bad. So they are, count your blessings. They're okay, but they are not completely and totally ruling out the games. There is a chance that she could be okay. Now, the caveat to that is that Justin doesn't, I don't think they want to rush her back.
Yeah.
Given what they see as the runway that she has right now to have a really solid career here over the next couple of years. And there's still the World Fitness Project Tour stop in Arizona. There's still the Rogue Invitational.
Finals.
There's all that stuff still out there. So as much as she, and Lauren, you know this because you've talked to Justin a lot and you've heard him talk glowingly about Alex, that he thinks, and I think justifiably so, given what she's done so far this season, that she has a legitimate chance of winning the CrossFit Games.
And her training age is still so young.
Yes.
I think people forget how young she actually is, that she has a huge runway for the sport, and especially seeing what she's able to do now, because what about, we said like 6 to 8 weeks healing.
Yeah, but if it's a high ankle sprain timeline, then it really depends. And we don't want to give medical prognoses, but under the best circumstances, you see people in the NFL come back from high ankle sprains in like three-ish weeks.
Yeah.
Sometimes 4.
Like I said, I don't think they're not completely and totally ruling it out.
Yeah.
Did he say when they would need to give an answer by?
I don't,
because I suppose she could register for the games, and then
why wouldn't she?
And then last minute, just if she's not feeling like she's able to.
Yeah, I don't think there's any sort of deadline that's been put on that. But it's not a definite she's going to, from what I heard from Justin yesterday, there is a chance that she still competes. Although, like I said, they are taking a long view at this, and Justin's a smart guy. I respect the hell out of that dude. They're not going to rush her back just to be like, hey, we got to go. If you can go, we're going. It's not that type of thing. It's like, you got to be 100% sure that everything's fine and we're in tip-top shape, because there's too much in front of us to risk. We're not risking that for one competition. And I think that's a smart move.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it could have been a lot worse from what I understand.
And I know we'll probably get to this in community support, but they do have a GoFundMe page, because the vehicle that hit them did not have insurance.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So the medical bills, their vehicle, that's all. Yep. That's all on them. So yeah.
Yeah. There really is a GoFundMe. I don't. So let me just, for those of you who haven't seen
Alex's Instagram, right? And she posted a video. I'm amazed that she posted that video.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. So that's her afterwards. So you can see her right leg is in. Cast.
Also, shout out to the first responders and paramedics and people that rode in the ambulance with her, because this is something that I think gets overlooked for some of the first responders. I have some friends that are medics, and they are tasked with, in many ways, also trying to keep the spirits of people who are in some of the worst situations that they've ever been in. And that guy that was in the back, they're talking about how much she's benched and stuff like that. You could see that level of care and just like pulling the mind away from like what is a really bad situation is just like a little brief moment of respite that I know a lot of first responders do and put that level of care into how they treat people. And just a quick shout out to that.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And thank God everyone's okay. You know, that would have been,
Oof.
you know, and so she'll be back. You know, it's just a matter of, you know, when, not if. So yeah, and like you said,
take the time she needs to heal.
Absolutely.
Hug your loved ones. Jake, we're glad that you're okay too. And you know, she's got a good support team from the Kotlers to their kids to, you know, everybody else in her corner. Yeah.
So glad everyone's okay. But there is a GoFundMe. And I think you can go to our Instagram page to find that. And, you know, listen, help people out when you can. You know, and like you said, this guy, the person who hit him didn't have any insurance. That's medical bills here in the old US of A are expensive. They can they can bankrupt families really fast. So, but they have the opportunity to get better. That's what's important. And good that they're going to be able to come out on the other side of this. And okay, well, speaking of health scares, Tommy, you texted us about this one.
Yeah.
And that's Bailey Martin suffered a cardiac event.
Crazy.
So what happened?
Crazy. I mean, Lauren, you have some details on this too, right? Like basically he got pulled from the Torium Pro after some EKGs and the medical team looking up. And this news kind of came out a lot later. So do you have a little bit more insight? I have go ahead.
Because he posted they posted on the YouTube channel that essentially after event 1, he met with the medical team. They ran an EKG. Then they said, okay, before event number 2, come back here. We're going to do another EKG test. They did that. He starts warming up for event 2 and they're like, you know what? We're going to run a third one. And essentially all 3 of them came back with different results, which isn't a great sign. So at that point, the medical team withdrew him from the competition. And now he's on medication to help with inflammation. But he
mentioned a N-stem E, I guess it's called, the non-ST elevation myocardial infarction, which is like a type, like, I guess he kind of mentioned like the term heart attack was thrown around where like the artery is like partially blocked, but
luckily he doesn't need surgery. And, you know, he's on medication to help with the inflammation and he does have minor damage to his heart, but for the next month, at least, he can't get his heart rate up. And it's just, it's concerning and upsetting to hear somebody so young deal with that. And also, you know, he was ready as ready as he could be to go on the floor for event 2.
Yeah.
Scary. Did he give any sort of long-term prognosis, or is it pretty much just like, for now, I just can't do anything? We don't know what's going to happen in the future.
I haven't heard of any.
Yeah. God. I think just for the next month or so, I'm sure he'll go back to the doctor, and once his medication is over, I'm sure they'll run other testing.
I've had 2 people in my family with something similar, and in both situations, because there's obviously like constant heart monitoring, you're keeping your heart rate down. After about a month, they want to see like basically how your body responds to medication, to a controlled scenario, like a controlled environment, and like the kind of rehab and recovery process. And so it's really kind of hard to put a prognosis in that until you get through that initial, like almost like monitoring window too.
Yeah. My mom has dealt with something like that not her entire life, but came on when she was, I think, late 30s. I was really young when it happened.
Yeah.
But it was one of like a heart murmur and a arrhythmia, I think they call it. That caused her, when she's playing tennis one night, just blacked out, like kind of fainted, and they had to.
Oh my god!
Next thing I know, we're at Stanford Med Center in Palo Alto, and they're running all kinds of tests on her, and then she was on lifetime medication. Managed it. They figured out what it was, but yeah, it was that's scary.
Yeah, someone I played sports with had that happen in high school.
Yeah,
crazy. You don't know.
Well, thank God they figured it out. Because like you said, Lauren, he was ready to go out on the floor. Like, what happens if he, competes for a couple more events, gets that heart rate to a point where like there's some damage could have been done. Like, thank God they pulled him off the floor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? I guess the silver lining in all this is that everyone's okay. Medical people love you. Thank you for everything you do. For keeping people safe. All right, let's get back now to like competition stuff. So this weekend is the Hyrox World Championships in Chicago, right?
Mm-hmm.
Did you guys see any of that press conference that they ran?
What was that?
What was that?
They ran a press conference yesterday.
Yeah.
It was like a legit press conference. There were a lot of people there.
I know. And they ran through a bunch of different athletes.
Yeah, it was
looked great. Lauren Smith was hosting. We love her.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Great.
That was really impressed. But so Tia Toomey, who has a chance to win her, 8th CrossFit Games now? Is that what we're on? I've lost track. She's competing in mixed doubles and pairs. So in back-to-back races, really. And I know the question is like, what would have to, would anything here affect her CrossFit Games outlook? Like, let's say she goes out and wins both of those competitions. I don't think it makes a lick of difference. I think she's going to show up in Albany, and I think she's going to, do what she does, and she's going to
raise hell.
She's going to cash that check. So I don't think there is anything that could happen in Chicago this weekend that would keep her from doing the CrossFit Games, and especially because her Hyrox career is just beginning.
Yeah.
It's just taken off.
And so if she doesn't win both this year, that's just going to motivate her more to do more in the future and to get better at it.
Yeah.
If she does win both, same story. So I don't see anything happening unless it's like some injury that she suffers that keeps her out of competition. But other than that, I will be shocked if she's not in Albany.
Yeah, didn't Proven just announce a Hyrox partnership too? A partnership with Hyrox specifically?
I didn't see it, but it wouldn't shock me.
Yeah, but I mean,
HWPO offers a Hyrox track.
They do.
Like more and more programming entities are getting into it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. Because like Tia competes Saturday. She goes. This was crazy. She does back-to-back races. So, like. Pretty savage to go back to back like that with mixed doubles and then pairs.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if the
say
only
it.
thing
what do you want to say?
The only thing I could see is if somehow her and her partners get worked, and she's like, we gotta compete again soon, and like that interferes with the CrossFit Games somehow. I don't think it will. But I don't know. Tonight is the Elite 15, individual competition. So, yeah, I could see her. Yeah, maybe if she wins the CrossFit Games, steps away, would she go to the individual side?
Yeah, that I could see. Yeah. I think that will probably happen. Absolutely.
It's not a matter of if, it's when.
Yeah, why wouldn't you? You have that much talent, why wouldn't you? Look, here's the other thing, too. I don't think it's long before Hyrox gets some kind of TV deal. I mean, look at the numbers. Someone's going to look at it and be like, wait, that's how big that community is, and they all show up for these events and they want to watch it? Like, what? I'm kind of shocked they don't have it already.
Yeah.
Because if you've ever watched one of those events, it's really conducive to putting on a good show in a couple of hours. Like, you could, around an elite race, there's so much you could do in that time when they're running. You can run features while they're doing the 800s. Like, it's really a good format to be covered on television for great storytelling, great event coverage, stat, like all kinds of stuff that you could do in that time. Because, as we know from covering CrossFit, anytime there's like a lengthy run, like that's when you got to kill time and do stuff. So you got about, I don't know what, like a minute and a half in there.
Yeah.
Maybe more.
And you have
got
so
more
many,
than that to fill and do some pretty cool storytelling.
Yeah, and you have so many events already going on globally. You could have a pro series, I guess, kind of what the Elite 15 is, and
right,
you have a season.
I will be shocked if that, like, the next couple of years CBS Sports Network or someone doesn't reach out to them and be like, hey, how do we get this on our air?
They'd almost have to push the championships back, right? Because that was one of the benefits for CrossFit, was that they were in the middle of the summer during like the lull of programming, right? You would want the build up to the World Championships to take place when, NBA, NHL, NFL aren't. Like, baseball's kind of unavoidable because their season is so long at some point. But I could see that happening if they shift just a little bit.
Well, they might not even need to shift if they did it like kind of World's Strongest Man and make it a whole post-production thing and run it over multiple weeks. Like that's something they could do too. Like, I'm not saying it's got to be live. I don't even know if that might be hard to do, but someone is going to put this on. It's just gotten too big and too popular. I'm honestly, like I said, I'm kind of shocked someone hasn't already. Look at their participation numbers. They're off it's crazy. The growth they're having.
It's insane.
So
it's also insane.
What?
This Father Jeremy's Create Your Own Sunday from Leatherby's that's just staring at me in my alternate window right now.
I'm telling you, man, this is good ice cream.
Yeah,
it's good. I worked there as like my high school summer job was being a busboy there, and I always came home like there's one summer where I just wanted nothing to do with ice cream because I came home just caked and I had like hot fudge and stuff on me and just I was like, oh God, get me away from it. I'm sick of it. It's a good job though. I made good tips. It was busy as hell in the summer. Like I was cranking. It's one of those jobs that teaches you life lessons. You're like, I don't want to do this for the rest of my life. I better go figure out something I'm moderately decent at and can maybe make a living at. So, okay. So are they streaming the Hyrox stuff? Do they stream that on their YouTube channel? I think they do, right? They have
a stream. They have a stream.
All right. Well, it's this weekend in Chicago. If I can watch Tia compete, if I have a chance, I'm going to try and check it out.
I'm going to do it.
So this is just the prelude. This is the calm before the storm. This is the warm up before she shows up in Albany and just, just, paintbrushes everybody and takes her check. Okay, I know we have some community support we want to get to. We mentioned Alex Gazan. There's another one.
Last Chance Qualifier is also.
Oh, that's right. Last Chance Qualifier.
Yeah.
Let's get to that. Last Chance Qualifier. That's happening. Thank you for reminding me. Okay, let's
You're
go.
welcome.
The weekend. The
workouts are out.
The workouts are out. Let me get those right now. Yeah, I would have been remiss had we not talked about.
There's 5.
And
5 workouts.
There's 5 workouts. Let me put them up here. So they made this announcement, workout reveal, Last Chance Qualifier. So workout 1 presented by Rich Froning is 4-time 100 double unders, 10 clean and jerks, 100 double unders, 10 clean and jerks, 100 double unders, 10 clean and jerks, 100 double unders. And the weight goes up every set of clean and jerks. So there's 3 barbells, 145, 155, 165 for the women, 205, 225, 245 for the men. Workout 2. Michael Izquierdo.
That means to the left.
That does it? Okay.
Izquierda.
Okay. 3 rounds of time for...
I'm glad I didn't try.
It's me too. Well, I did, but I probably just butchered it. 3 rounds for time of a 34 or 42 calorie row, 30 burpees over the rower, 8 alternating dumbbell snatches, 50 pounds to the men. 50 pounds to the women, 70 pounds for the men. Workout 3, Alberto Neto is presenting that one. This one's for time, 9, 12, 15 of ring muscle ups and overhead squats. Pretty simple. 125 for the women, 185 for the men. Workout 4, presented by Max Ma. As many repetitions as possible in 7 minutes of 100 wall ball shots. And then you do max legless rope climbs in the remaining time. Ugh. No, thank you.
I know Max.
Yeah.
And all I got to say is, what the hell, man?
And then workout 5 is presented by Liam Mulligan. This one is for time, 50 toes to bar, 40 front rack walking lunges, 30 strict handstand push-ups facing out, 50 GHD sit-ups, 40 back rack walking lunges, and 30 wall-facing strict handstand push-ups. The weight on the front rack lunges, 80 pounds for the women, 115 pounds for the men. You got to register via the Hustle Up app, and you can follow the updates there too. So last chance for people to earn their spot. So do we know who's the favorite here? Like who?
Well, they won't even let you look at the leaderboard unless you download the app to see who's registered.
Right. So they're taking, I can't even remember who they're taking. It's like the top non-qualifiers out of the in-person event. So it's like just the next person who didn't qualify down.
Yeah, so the top 50 non-qualifying athletes from the individual and affiliate semifinals,
Right,
and then
okay.
the top 10 non-games qualifying athletes from the in-person qualifiers.
So, okay, so because that's essentially just the next person up for every event, right?
I believe so.
So if your event qualified 2 people, you would be and the third person goes. Unless there was some strange scenario in which 2 people had already qualified and then the next 2 finished 3rd and 4th and then you finished 5th. So it's essentially just the first person out goes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nate Ackerman.
Well, he's got to now compete back-to-back weekends.
I know.
This is
Poor
where
guy.
people who have been sitting there a while have a chance or they're probably a little more fresh. But we'll see how this one goes. You got to, all the videos need to be submitted. What's
There's
the
a deadline for each, the deadline for 1 through 3, and then the deadline for 4 and 5.
Yeah, you have until June 14th at 11 p.m. Pacific time to register. If you haven't yet, now's the time. So that's Saturday night here, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Saturday night, 11 p.m. Pacific time. I mean, I think those are pretty cool workouts. Like you're going to get a legit person out of it, right? Like there's nothing super gimmicky in there.
Even the presentation of them, it was like very simple to start, and then you start it. My internal monologue was like, "Oh, okay, first one from Rich. I'd like to do that one.
Yeah.
Second one, probably not so much. But again, another like the second one, you really gotta feels like very grunty,
Mm-hmm.
and then I'm like, oh, where's the skill? And then we go overhead squat, ring muscle up, very variation of almost like a more static Amanda, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So someone called a snatch a kipping overhead squat.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
And then obviously with the legless rope climbs and wall facing handstand pushups and stuff like that, things really crank up as you get along. So
yeah, they're not.
I like it.
They're getting 2 legit people. Like you're not gonna luck your way into the games out of the Last Chance Qualifier. And it's going to be a really good field too. But you have to download the Hustle Up app to follow the leaderboard, right? It's not on is it on the game site right now?
Nope.
Oh,
yeah, last I checked, I didn't know.
Okay.
Well, again,
download the Hustle Up app if you want to follow along on this one. And then we'll find out. And the deadline is again now when? Because the deadline to register Saturday night at 11 p.m. Pacific time. Workouts need to be submitted by when?
There's one on Saturday and one on Sunday.
Okay, so you can register at the same time as you submit whatever the window is. So you got to do 3 on Saturday or 2 on Saturday, 3 on whatever it is.
3 on Saturday. Yeah.
3 on Saturday, 2 on Sunday.
3 by Saturday. Yeah.
Okay. So and you don't have to do them in order, but you can't you got to submit 1 through 3 Saturday, 4 and 5 on Sunday. Mm-hmm. All right. Good luck with that, everybody. I'll have to download the Hustle Up app so I can follow along and see who's doing what. That'll be interesting to see after night 1. And then again, you got to do a whole review process as well.
Yep.
So, okay.
Which they say it's going to be done a week from Friday.
Really?
They say competition resolution June 17th through the 20th. We'll see.
Okay.
As Pat Sherwood used to say.
Yeah, we'll see. All right. That will cover it now for the games season, because after that we'll know the field, and then it's one more to go, and that's the big dance in Albany, New York on August 2nd. But like I mentioned, we have some community support we want to get to. Already mentioned Alex Gazan. There's another one out there too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I got 2 more today. So the first one, Mount Batten, 24-hour row. So Max Filoni, I just want to make sure I pronounce it both ways, is a member and a coach of Marine Fit. It's a gym in the UK, and he's raising money for the Mount Batten Hospice through a 24-hour row from Friday, August 22nd until Saturday, the 23rd. Mountbatten is the only hospice on the Isle of Wight, and it's known across the UK for their innovative and expert medical, nursing, and end-of-life care. There have been some recent financial cuts to Mountbatten, so it's kind of put them at risk. And so Max wants to raise as much money as possible to support them. That's why, even though it's in August, we're mentioning it now, and we'll kind of mention it sporadically to help them in that regard. And if you want to support, they have a Just Giving page. It is titled, if you go to justgiving.com, I lost it. Justgiving.com. You look up Max's 24-hour row for Mountbatten, and Mountbatten is one word: MOUNTBATTEN. And it should be a picture of him rowing, and there's a little Marine Fit charity photo there too. So, yeah, trying to raise some money and save a hospice. The next one, if you've been online recently or been at an active member of the community, you've probably seen this one. So Patrick Herringer, he's founder, coach, co-owner, along with his wife Sarah, of Findlay Movement in Cincinnati, the Cincinnati area. So he was killed recently when an intruder broke into their home and fatally stabbed Patrick while he was trying to protect his wife Sarah. Now, Patrick was a veteran. He served his country. Anyone knew him. He was a pillar of the community there in Cincinnati and his neighborhood where he lived in OTR. And it's been a pretty devastating blow to the community because, they were previously in Colorado, moved to Cincinnati, set up a gym, built their own community there. They've both been very active in the CrossFit space for over a decade. They've set up a GoFundMe for his family. You've probably seen the link flying around already, but if you go to GoFundMe.com and you type in Patrick's name, Patrick, Patrick, Herringer, Heringr, you'll see one that says support for Patrick Herringer's family. It's gotten a lot of support, and we want to keep that going. Obviously, a life partner, a business owner, a coach, was lost in a pretty devastating fashion. And I think the details surrounding it in particular are worth noting because his wife, Sarah, has really kind of taken up the charge to try and create some reform in their area. So if this is news to you, Patrick, the person that has been arrested for stabbing for the situation, was recently in jail, was paroled, has broke parole, cut off their ankle monitor. And based off of Sarah's updates, there was some sort of communication breakdown between the parole board, parole officer, and local law enforcement, and not adequately notifying people that this person was out and about and had broken parole and needed to come in. And then ultimately resulted in what should have been a preventable death. So Sarah's, I actually highly recommend, if you're in the Cincinnati area, greater Ohio area, actually really anywhere, I would give her a follow, send some messages of support. Her IG is _somatic, SOMATIC _life coach. She is posting updates. She's meeting with city officials. She's meeting with local law enforcement officials to really try and bring about change. And in the midst of this just absolutely awful scenario, and amidst all the grief and everything that comes with that, she's kind of really charged up her efforts in creating some reform. So heart goes out to her. Thoughts and prayers go out to Patrick's whole family, Sarah as well, and that whole Findlay movement community. And yeah, support it if you can, because it's just brutal.
Yeah, it's terrible. Like I said, it's been all over social media. So yeah, please help if you can.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else that we need to get out there?
Not from community support. If you have any, please reach out. We've had some people reach out more so in recent weeks, and we really appreciate you doing that. We wanted to offer up these opportunities to support people in the community, not just people who are doing good things like the fundraisers, but to support people in times of need, because that's
100%.
what we do best. We rally around our own.
Exactly. Good message. All right, let's try to end this on a little bit of fun.
How about no reps?
Yeah, all right.
I got two, but they're fun.
All right, let's do.
Okay.
Tommy, do your no reps? We'll do some PRs.
Okay.
I'm gonna know. Well, the first one's not fun. I'm gonna no rep automated phone systems.
Oh God, that might be lifetime PR.
Yeah.
Or, sorry, lifetime no rep, because you can never
yeah.
find the option of the specific thing you're calling about, and you just have
Let's
to
just
guess,
say-
and they just keep sending you through this purgatory of customer service.
I'm trying to give a school district money. I'm trying to give them money as part of this, permitting process for us build our house. And I just needed to confirm one detail about the payment process. It's not on their website. I go through their automated phone system, which has 14 different options in terms of like press this number. You can even click for a secondary menu to get more options. I went through every single one of them. Didn't talk to a single person.
I can't see
and got
that.
nothing but answering machines. And it resulted in me driving over an hour pointlessly, all just to be turned around. And it was
Oh, I hate that.
Just
for
give
you.
me a damn person to talk to.
exactly 2 seconds. The lady who was helping me, she was very sweet. She
Good.
realized the mistake, was like, oh God, I'm so sorry. But that's another story for another day.
All right.
I'm also going to no rep noise ordinances in the Lowen neighborhood.
Oh,
Because I don't know if you saw the Red Bull Rancher Strong competition.
I did.
Yeah, looked awesome.
That Ariel Lowen won, and
Yep.
part of her winning, they got like a Polaris, like side by side, like
Ooh.
awesome, like driving machine.
Mhm.
And I can guarantee you that Dylan is going to be spinning donuts, her husband, in that neighborhood, and is going to be causing a ruckus once they get that. So
the
I love
HOA
it.
is going to have something to say about that.
Yeah,
I'm guessing.
but
Okay, that's a good one. All right, PRs. Lauren, you want to start?
No, you go, Sean.
Oh, I'm just going to PR the Stanley Cup Finals. Like,
Yeah.
that has, if there is any doubt in anyone's mind, like what the greatest postseason in sports is, and I know the NCAA tournament's great, wild card weekend in the NFL is fantastic, but you cannot beat the intensity and the excitement of the Stanley Cup playoffs. The first two games went to sudden death overtime. Tonight's game was decided in the third period by 1 goal. Oilers won. This thing's tied up at 2 apiece. It's had everything. It's had overtime drama. You've had complete line fights. Like you've had a blowout game. Like it's been unfreaking believable. Like it's just, and I really can't stand the Oilers right now, so I'm all aboard the Panthers train. Plus, I know the
wait,
what?
it's in overtime.
It is? I thought it was over.
The Panthers scored with 20 seconds left.
No way. That's what I'm talking about. See? It's just unbelievably exciting. Oh, God, I got to turn this on. That's nuts. But I know the woman who does their studio stuff during the season used to be my intern when I worked at the station in Jacksonville. And I like, shout out to Jessica Blaylock. She's awesome. And so I just got to cheer for the Panthers now. But it's like, you cannot beat this excitement. I mean, if you're a fan of either one of these teams, you've lost years off your life already. So
That's awesome.
PR of the Stanley Cup playoffs. I thought it was over. I thought the Oilers won. God.
Yeah, 20
Crazy.
seconds left.
Because that happened the other night. The Oilers tied it with 18 seconds left to go to overtime. Man, unbelievable. That's my PR. Tommy, what's yours?
Oh, I got two.
right.
I'm going to PR the lovely Vietnamese woman at Sunshine Donuts here in Salinas.
Ooh.
I went to go get donuts for our family, and took Miles in for the first time. He was mesmerized by the donut shop.
Yeah, they love that stuff.
And she was just like super sweet to him and super engaging with him. And she goes, "I put in a special one for you," and throws a little like pink sprinkled donut for him that he was like, he couldn't eat, but he was like, "Oh, this thing's awesome." And I have fond memories of going to get donuts with my parents as a special treat on the weekend. And that is definitely something I'm going to continue at that location. So, and then I'm also PRing the Red Bull soapbox race.
Oh, yeah, that thing's awesome.
Because the Buttery Bros are competing in it this weekend.
Oh my God.
Fun.
I'm going to question the structural integrity of what vehicle they're barreling down the hill on.
Oh my God.
The Red Bull Soapbox Utah, there's going to be a butter bin going down the tracks. And it says, "You better believe it."
Oh my God. Nice.
It's amazing.
I got a first look at it, and it is incredible.
All right. That's cool. Good luck, guys.
Oh.
Don't let Mars drive. Yeah, don't let. Actually, I would let Mars drive. He used to luge. I would let him. He's good at high speeds. Yeah, he could do it.
I think he's driving. I think he is driving.
I think that's a good choice. Yeah, I take that back. Let Mars drive. Lauren, PR.
I'm I just thought of this. I am PRing my neighbors because they're finally moving.
Oh, fantastic. Nothing like getting rid of the riffraff.
Oh yeah, they're tough. They're tough. They shot a BB through my window, and that is just the tip of the iceberg, but that's a story for another day.
Damn.
So I'm PRing that they're finally moving.
Fantastic. Congratulations.
Wow.
All right. Peace and quiet finally around this damn neighborhood.
Thank God.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for today. Thanks to our sponsors, Victory Grips, victorygrips.com. The code is TEF. You will save 15% on one of their great models that they offer. Depending on what you're doing, what bars you have, they got something for you. And also Thirdsy, Thirdsy.com. Code is TEF. You'll save 20% on their rest and recovery collagen. After next week, we'll know, well, we should have a better idea, is what I will say, as to the complete and total field that is heading to the CrossFit Games in Albany, New York. Also know how Tia Toomey did at the Hyrox World Championship, so we'll have an update on that and keep you posted on what's going on with the Last Chance Qualifier. For Lauren Khalil and Tommy Marquez, I'm Sean Woodland. Take care of each other, be better, and we will talk to you guys next time.